The angle that right-arm bowlers create around the wicket to left-handers is extreme. It follows them like they have been shoplifting. And if you didn't grow up facing it regularly, it's kind of a little bit alien to you.
We always question some of the ex-left-handers in the day about that. No more wide cut shots. You've got to actually create the room and space. And
This is David Warner talking about bowlers coming around the wicket to him. Well, not bowlers, right-arm seamers. When David Warner started his career in 2011, 20% of the balls to left-hand batters from around the wicket were from right-arm quicks. Last year, it was 60%. Think of it this way, right-arm pace is basically 50% of all the bowling you're going to face at the top level of professional cricket, and you're now facing 40% of that from a whole new angle. The game Warner came into no longer exists. He's lost his room. And that is why Warner has stopped talking to even old southpaws, because they never played in a DRS era with guys starting from around the wicket to them. Most of the time in those days, a lefty would only face someone from around the wicket when they were already smashing the ball. It's a lot different facing someone bowling around the wicket to you when you're already 160 not out. Instead, Warner started talking to the guys who stand on the other side of the bat to get some tips.
talking to a lot of the right-handers, obviously face right-arm bowlers, you've got to get into positions where you allow the ball to beat you on the outside. If I get beaten on the outside of my bat and my off stump gets rissoled, then you're not in the right position. So I've worked hard on that over the years to try and do that. And I think it's only happened once since that's happened. And you're going to get a ball that sort of angles down towards leg and can swing away. So if that happens, so be it. But
this ball has caused a problem for Warner. And not just him, but kind of everyone left-handed in the world. It's the angle of the ball coming back in towards them and then leaving them that is the thing that causes problems. And it makes sense because it's how off-spinners bowl to left-handers as well. And a lot of it is just because they didn't face a lot of it previously. This is a great way of showing what has happened. As more balls were delivered around the wicket, especially early on in the innings, the batting average of left-handers has dropped drastically. Picking left-handers for a little while looked like it was no longer a sound tactical selection. So many of them were going out. But that is partly because beforehand they were actually overperforming as batters. Throughout modern cricket, right-handers have scored less than lefties. And part of this was probably down to the LBW laws and the lack of DRS. The problem is that as the lefties started struggling more, so did the righties, with essentially the same things. So now both batters have been struggling for a while. And no cricketer who has been in the game for especially a decade or even more than that hasn't had to adjust their old game. But Warner is someone who has had to do it more. And part of that is because his failures were louder, as is everything in his career. Because David Warner keeps being dismissed by England's greatest Ashes troll, Stuart Broad. As it stands, Broad might actually break the world record for the most dismissals of one batter ever, although that probably won't happen because Warner might be out of the team by then. Stuart Broad has even made ads about concentrated yeast extract that seeps out of brewing machines and still manages to mention Warner in them. That probably didn't happen when Hugh Trumbull was destroying Tom Hayward. Warner averages 26.64 in tests when he faced Stuart Broad. So for him, this is a very real thing. And it's not just Broad. And you can see it was 2017 when his test batting had to change drastically. From there on in, Warner has been attacked half the time from around the wicket. So that you will see that in 2018, he didn't face bowlers doing that. England is a team that definitely like to do it, as he found out very brutally in 2019. And so when Warner walks out to bat, there will be a lot of balls coming in on that angle, taking away his room. This is Warner on that angle that basically got Stuart Broad a Marmite sponsorship.
I tried to do that last time I was here, but I was in a defensive mode. And when you're thinking about where's my off stump, if I play in this, I'm not actually looking to hit that through covers. Where if I hit that through covers, so be it. If I nick off, then I'm happy with that.
The first 16 balls of the WTC final are very interesting. You can see that Mohammad Shami comes from very wide, moving that ball in and occasionally away. But he's probing at the top of off stump, looking for a bold and LBW with that angle, but also knowing that if the ball straightens, he's even more dangerous and likely to get a catch in the cordon. But what you really see here is no room. Warner needs that. He grew up as a player freeing his arm, and now he's permanently tucked up by cricket's new method. Modern cricket has changed left-handers from the type of player that many people always talked about being elegant and free-flowing. Now they're kind of punch-heavy, crease-trapped victims. The 17th ball that Warner faced in that WTC final was from Mohammad Siraj, a bowler who loves coming over the wicket to left-handers. And you can see that he just gets his line a little bit wrong, and Warner jumps on it so fast because this is what he wants. This is what he grew up with. Now players like Warner have to manufacture this room outside off stump.
I think Duckett did a lot the other day as well. So, that's the blessing of left-hander. We can try and create that room as well. So hopefully I can do that.
And this is what Warner tried to do today. When Broad comes around the wicket but pitches wide, Warner sees it and thinks he can use that space. But the angle and also the fact that Broad brought that ball back in off the pitch as well takes all of the room away. And so that means that Warner ends up trying to play about 3 different shots, all of them terrible. And instead he just drags the ball back on. I mean, I think you've done something wrong when you end up in this position. He's essentially trying to kneel down and lash this through point, and then realize later on it is not where he needs it to be, and he just threw everything at it. Unfortunately, that didn't work. And nothing excuses this shot. I'm sure David Warner wouldn't be excusing it. But the angle and brawn are again the main culprits. And Warner, of course, wasn't the only lefty for Australia today. This is all the left-handers in the world who have faced a lot of over and around the wicket bowling. On the right, they prefer when you bowl to them over the wicket. And those on the left, they love it when you come around. But while there are very few southpaws who actually prefer seamers coming around the wicket, have a look at this. Travis Head, Alex Carey, and Usman Khawaja would appear to be 3 of them. They all seem to go pretty well today. In Khawaja's case, he waltzed back into international cricket just as everyone went around the wicket to his kind. He's the same age as Warner and another left-handed opening batter, but they're not really that much alike. And this new world suits him just as much as it haunts his opening partner. And it certainly looked that way today, where Khawaja only looked flustered from a no ball, or when he had to pick up his bat after throwing it in celebration. And it isn't true that all of Warner's problems are from the angle. In the WTC final, he also nicked off to Mohammad Siraj when chasing the width that he craves. Of course, you could argue that he was going after that ball so hard because he doesn't get as much of that width anymore. But in the first innings of that match, he was batting pretty damn well when he was bounced out by Shardul Thakur's friendly short ball, which was of course angled in and at him. There was a time when David Warner played cricket the exact way he wanted and everyone else had to move out the way. But the game has changed on him. And now all he could do is think back to the good old days when his style was uncramped. But in Test cricket right now, Warner is just running out of room.